You want to, as an economy, keep track of the health of your economy. So you want to have certain checkups that you do on your economy. One of them is going to be keeping track of real GDP, the real output that your country makes each year. And we talked about that last unit. The other one is going to be to keep track of unemployment rates in your country and to match them up against the natural rate of unemployment. If your unemployment rate is much higher than the natural rate, you probably have some health issues. Another one is going to be inflation. You're going to keep track of price levels in your country. All right, so you want to keep track of the inflation rate. We talked last unit about constructing a price index, consumer price index, producer price index, GDP deflator. Those are all different types of price indices. You're going to take a list of stuff. So for the consumer price index, it's going to be the list of things, typical things consumers buy in your economy. So you stick with a list, and then you pretend like you bought that list in a bunch of different years and compare how much that list of stuff cost in the year you're measuring for divided by how much that list of stuff cost in the base year. So one base year that you've picked randomly or semi-randomly. And you keep comparing prices to the base year prices year after year after year. All right? So these are the formulas you learned last unit. All right, and you use those to plug in to convert nominal GDP to real GDP in this formula. But today you're going to use price index formulas to find the rate of inflation for each year. So the rate of inflation for a certain year, year Y, let's say, is equal to the price index. If you're looking at a list of price indices on some table, you would take the price index of that year and subtract from it the price index of 1 year previous. Let's say we were finding the rate of inflation for 2011. You take the price index number of 2011, subtract the price index number of 2010. Excellent. And then divide all that by the price index in 2010, the previous year's price index. And because it's a percentage, the rate of inflation, rate implies a percentage, so you have to do what? Excellent, times 100. Very good, Amanda Marshall. All right? People don't like inflation, right? As consumers, you don't like it when prices go higher and higher, right? Inflation, and your parents say, oh, inflation, higher prices for everything. No, no, right? So the formula for inflation, you're going to take the new price index minus the old price index, the price index of the previous year, divided by the price index of the previous year. New minus old over old. That's the same formula you just wrote down before, right? New minus old over old.
It's a different way to figure out the same.
It's the same, yeah, it's a different way to figure out the same formula. New minus old over old. New price index minus old price index over old price index. This is just a way to remember it. Inflation, no. N-O-O, right? New minus old over old, N-O-O. Don't do inflation, oh no. Or inflation, non, right? Or any other combination. Because if you do other combinations, like if you do old minus new over new, if you do on, you can get a wrong answer. All right? New minus old over old. And that'll give you any rates of change for all your classes, science classes, math classes, when you need to find a rate of change, like the increase in the population or whatever, you take new minus old over old times 100, right, to give you a percentage. Okay? Remember these terms, inflation. Your economy would have experienced inflation if the number that pops out of that formula comes out to be positive. If the number that pops out turns out to be negative, then you've had deflation. The only way it could come out negative is because the price index of the year is lower than the price index the previous year. So prices were lower, the number will come out negative. Disinflation is when you have a lower rate of inflation than last year. a lower rate of inflation than last year. So let's say that this year's inflation rate was 5%, and last year's inflation rate was 8%. In both years, were prices higher? Yes, this year and last year, prices are higher than before. They both had inflation, but this year's inflation is less than last year's inflation rate, right? So disinflation is less than that inflation. Jokes, lots of econ jokes.